Western Sydney 70.3 Ironman 2022. It's an event that I certainly won't forget anytime soon. Day started super early, got up around 3 something, to get to the race venue, get my rego, get my bike racked, set everything up. Plenty of time to get changed, get my wetsuit on, have your last little bits of nutrition, and then head down to the swim start. Fortunately, there was no opportunity to do a swim warm-up beforehand, so I was doing some start jumps and stuff just to get warm before we jumped into the water. We watched the para guys take off, so they started at 18 minutes past 6. We were meant to start at 20 past 6, and literally this fog descends over the lake and you couldn't see much. So from a water safety perspective, I guess they had to make that call, and I guess it was the right one. But from a competitor standpoint of view, it was somewhat challenging because, you're all loaded up, you've drank stuff, you're ready to go, and then you're standing there kind of getting cold. So we had to wait around for almost like 40 minutes or something before the fog cleared. So I had a new thing for me, which was, I really needed to pee. Normally, I guess you'd be in the water and it's not so bad, but I gave it a go standing there. I think a few other people were doing the same because when you're stuck in a wetsuit for that long, not doing anything, it's kind of hard, and it was cold too. So finally, the race did start just before about 7 o'clock. I was kind of near the front, about 15th person or something like that. Jumped in the water, but kind of struggled to find my rhythm. So I just wasn't swimming too well. And that was compounded because there was a whole lot of people swimming past me. The biggest thing that I found was I was just trying to fight the urge not to panic. So just breathing and just trying to keep swimming, but just being able to breathe. I got to the first buoy, which is about 700 meters in, and I was a bit surprised that my watch hadn't buzzed because it automatically does every 5 minutes. So I took a quick glance and saw that it hadn't started. So I pressed start and continued on my merry way. So heading back towards transition, it was fairly uneventful other than that I was just swimming slow. I can't really explain it. I just was really struggling to get into a rhythm and hold any kind of sense of swim form of what I know I'm capable of, but I just couldn't execute on it. Got out of the swim, into transition. I'm like, okay, let's get on with this. I need to work hard so I can catch the guys, that I should be racing against, and make a race of the event. So I was pushing pretty hard, making pretty good ground. So I was about 8 minutes, and there was a guy that I was overtaking. He was riding in the middle of the road, and I went to the right of him. And just as I did that, I hit a massive pothole, 10, 15 centimeters deep, by about 40, 45 centimeters kind of across. So double flatted, ejected my nutrition, which spilled everywhere, and I just basically tried not to crash. So ended up veering across to the other side of the road. Thankfully, I stayed upright. Standing there, I'm going, well, what do I do? So try to fix it. I had some CO2 canisters, so I used that. I'm running tubeless wheels. Sealant was going everywhere. I thought, well, maybe it'll seal up, and if I get air into it, it'll be able to seal, inflate, and I'll be able to keep going on my way. Unfortunately, it didn't really work too well. All I did do was I've got blisters on my hands because I got some burns. I saw a motorbike coming the other way, so I flagged them down and asked them, can you help, sort of thing? And they said, oh, do you want the sag wagon? And I'm like, no, I don't want to finish. I don't want to end my day. I want to finish this race. Can you get a mechanic to come and help? So they called a mechanic and said, yep, they'll come out to you. So I waited there for a couple more minutes on the side of the road. So probably about 15 minutes has passed now since the initial incident. And I decided, well, I'm only 5-6 Ks or something from transition. I may as well just start walking back. That's where the mechanic's coming from. I'm walking along carrying my bike shoes and pushing my bike. I managed to get 2 kilometers before I finally saw the mechanic coming along on the motorbike. So They, yeah, took the tires off and put some tubes in. Meanwhile, I'm standing there shivering away because I'm freezing in like a tri-suit that isn't exactly the warmest piece of kit to stand around in when it's quite cool. So eventually I got going again. Unfortunately, the front wheel had a bit of a wobble, so I'm like riding along, like going up and down because it had a bit of a bobble in it. I did actually pull over to check whether um, it seemed unsafe or something, but it was just a minor little skip, but it was kind of noticeable. So, but what could I do? All I wanted to do was just finish the race. I was gutted, but it was turning into just a training day for me. That was my mindset. I'm like, I've got another 70.3 in sort of just over a month's time. The whole idea of this event was anyway to see where my fitness was at. Having been sick just a couple of weeks earlier, I didn't have, I guess, expectations of, doing my best performance, but that's still not to say that I didn't have some sorts of expectations because obviously I'm a super competitive person and I still always want to, be up to race other people. But the other thing is when you're testing your fitness, you kind of want to just test it. You don't want to actually have mechanical issues, which affects you. So this was kind of a different sort of set of circumstances that I guess I was going through and both working through physically and emotionally while I was doing the event. So about halfway through the first lap, I was caught by the lead bike, and yeah, so Thomas goes to me, jump on my wheel to ride with me. So that's what I tried to do, but I was really struggling. Like I was basically riding at my FTP and suffering, like way above what I normally do for a 70.3. And I kept falling, like 15, 20 meters off, when we go around corners, because I was very gingerly with the low pressure, dodging traffic and potholes and things like that. And so I was doing these big surges to try and bridge back up to like sort of 10 meters. And then I try to push it to even get closer because I was like, I'll try to get whatever benefit I can from this. But I was suffering like so bad. And I'm thinking in my head, oh, he must be pushing like 350 watts or something like that. Like, because I'm pushing hard and struggling so much just to keep with him. So, but yeah, we eventually got to the end of the first lap. I'd somehow managed to stay somewhat in contact with him. And he pulls off to finish and I just kind of followed. And then I'm like, hang on, I'm only halfway. I've got to do another lap. I turned around and yeah, realized my front tire was really, really flat. Like it was sketchy to turn around a corner. So because I was near transition, there was a whole lot of people around. So I started stopping and calling out, has anyone got a pump? Because obviously I need more air. There's no way I could do another lap with the amount of air that I had in my tires. So thankfully someone had some CO2, which they offered to me. So I'm so grateful. If you're watching this, thank you very much. Put some more air into my tires. Great. Started going again. My legs are fried. Like my quads were super heavy. It was like a DOMS already. So I'm like, wow, like I don't know how I'm going to ride this next lap, let alone run a half marathon after. But I'm like, well, we'll just keep going. It's training after all. I stopped about 50 Ks, so I needed more air and the tire decided to seat itself. So all of a sudden now the tire was running a bit smoother. So that was good, but I still didn't have a lot of confidence with cornering. So I made up my mind that the next aid station, I'd ask around and see if I could get a pump there. Thankfully, I came across the mechanic along the way, who was on the other side of the road. So I pulled over there and he had a pump. And so we pumped the tire up again. I was being quite careful through the corners. 70K, I stopped again to pee. So, and then finally rode back to transition. Even though I was stopping quite a lot, when I was riding and the tire was okay, I was still holding pretty good pace. So it was kind of showing that, yeah, I still did have, I guess, the expectations that I had for myself were like actually legit. So even though I think my bike time ended up being, actually, I don't even know. It was like 3.5 hours or something like that, or close to 4 hours. My actual ride time was 2.5 hours. It wasn't too bad for the 90K, but yeah, not really what I was expecting. So into transition, my T2 was fairly solid, not lightning fast like some guys who were just over a minute. I took about 90 seconds. Out onto the run, yeah, I still was hopeful that maybe I could run under 80 minutes, but as I tried to, set into my pace that I knew I could do, I had a stitch. So I don't know whether this was because of my ad lib nutrition plan, because everything changed when I lost most of it when I flattered, but I kind of had to take it somewhat easy. So um, at 5K, I was able to have my first gel, and I was drinking like fluids and stuff. Then I had some more stitches around 9K. Obviously, I'm aware kind of when that happens that I need to focus more on water. And then I was able to have another gel at 13K. So my plan was just to have the two gels on the run. But I was really struggling to run sub 4 minute Ks. My 80 minute kind of initial goal had gone. And yeah, part of me thought, should I just finish, as in just walk off, what does it matter? But then the other thought crossed my mind was that I was just thankful to be able to exercise. I just wanted to see where my fitness was, because being sick really sucked. So yeah, and I mean, also I was grateful that I didn't crash, like I still was healthy and I still could choose to finish. So that's what I did. So I finished the run. It was about 83 minutes or something like that. So it was okay. I also had to stop while I was running, went to the Portaloo again. If I was racing, I probably would have pushed a lot harder on the run, but mentally it was very hard to do that, particularly when, well, I guess it's the difference between doing a session in training and doing a session, and racing. So there's kind of a different mental aspect there, that you can always push harder when you're racing other people compared to when you're running by yourself solo. So, but takeaways for it, I'm just thankful that at least I was able to finish. I didn't crash. I'm not injured post-race. I didn't have any issues with shin splints, which I have been struggling with over the last couple of months. Um, yeah, and I mean, my wife was quite scared when she didn't see me on the tracker, updating for 90 minutes. She was worried. And, that whole aspect of safety, and we do these events to enjoy, pushing our limits and seeing where we are, but at the same time we want to stay safe. And I'm just thankful that I was able to get through, and I didn't hurt myself, so that I can continue to do what I enjoy doing. So there's some good things to take away from the swim, things that I need to work on if I want to do better. So overall, it was a worthwhile experience, even though I wouldn't wish to do what happened again. So anyway, thank you for, if you've made it this far through my race report, for sticking around. And yeah, if you have any comments or questions, drop them down below, and yeah, I'll get back to you. Cheers. Thanks.